Hello students, welcome to Java programming course. Unit 5, currently we are discussing about chapter 2, multi-threaded programming in Java. In the previous video, due to power problem, we struck at last slide. And I will continue that one and later we come to this video and this lesson 2. Let's right over here. Multi-threaded programming for multi-core processor. In the last video, we struck at this slide and I will continue from here. So here in this multi-threaded programming for multi-core processors, so here we have two cores, CPU 1, core 1 and core 2 of my system, another processor. I have three threads T1, T2, T3 and these are the tasks of execution of these threads with this some delays. So at this time, time over here, T1 is started and here T1 is not started, T3 also not started. So T1 is started, right? So this one is switched to core 1. So from this starting, right? So here the total time taken for this module to complete by this thread 1. So we switch it to this one. This process is called simply scheduling. Okay, scheduling. So scheduling will take plays a key role in improving the performance of a computer or increase the throughput of a computer when we are using this multi-threaded programming on multi-core processors. So after during the execution of this thread 1 of this part, then after some time of at this time P2 thread 2 module is started is ready for execution. So core 1 is already busy with executing T1. So we schedule this T2 for this core 2 from this point. So it started execution, right? Then after this part of execution, time completion of this one. So T1 is currently executing this one and T3 is still not started. Then, so it sits some time ideal. This core 2 processor sits ideal. And after this time delay, T3 thread started and ready to execute. So when we go for course C1 at this time, core 1 is executing thread 1 and core 2 is ideal. So this T3 part of this thread is scheduled for this and dispatched. And this is dispatched for core 2 for execution. So T3 started execution, right? Like this. Then when come to this timeline, so at this timeline here, T1 is completed the thread execution here and T2 now started. T3 is under execution. So it sits sometime ideal here, T core 1 and later T2 started. So T2 part is ready to execute. So this should be scheduler dispatch to core 1. Why? Because during this time, core 2 is busy with executing T3 and T1, sorry, core 1 is ideal. So this part is switched to this one, core 1. So it is started execution. And during that execution, at this part, by ending thread 3, so if you observe, T2 is under execution and T1 is not started and T3 completed, right? So this part of time, core 2 again sits ideal. So later during this time, after this at this time slot, T1 is started, then core 2 is ideal. So switch that thread 1 to the schedule 1. So this way you can organize that order of execution of these threads on these multi-core systems. So it automatically improves and makes the ideal time of a computer minimized. So automatically decrease the ideal time of the computer. We are utilizing the capacity of the cores connected in our computer. So automatically throughput will increase. The execution time also reduce here, right? Now, okay, coming to video 8, chapter 2, multi-threaded programming, unit 5. And these are the topics today we're going to cover of this one. Java thread model, thread class, and runnable interface for creating threads. The first one, Java thread model. Here, Java runtime system depends on threads for many things. As we adopted thread-based multitasking, so Java runtime system depends on threads. And based on that, and keep it in mind that the class libraries are designed. So based on that multi-threaded based multitasking on a computer system with the help of Java runtime system, you are design some class libraries based on this. In fact, Java uses threads to enable the entire environment to be asynchronous. Here, asynchronous means independent in nature. That it means the threads are executing based on data independence, and that is simultaneously they will work. If they work simultaneously, automatically it improves the throughput. So here this threads makes the environment as asynchronous. So this help reduce inefficiency by preventing the waste of CPU cycles. So this gives efficiency by preventing the waste of CPU cycles by independent executing threads. Suppose when we consider a single threaded system, and here it follows approach called event loop with polling. So here event loop is nothing but a making that event for execution based on single thread concept, and polling is nothing but a queue. It organizes that events in a proper order. So in this model, in this single thread system, a single thread of control runs in an infinite loop, polling a single event queue to decide what to do next. As I told you, this multi-thread concept now work here. Here it is single thread control. So this single thread control completely maintain a polling, that is a scheduler dispatch based on the event to be execute next. Example of this situation is that some signal that a network file is ready to be read. Then event loop nothing but it generates the event to dispatch to proper to work as a proper handler. So whenever the events will occur on the particular situation, to handle that events, we need a proper handler mechanism. So example given here, a network file is ready to be read. When the network file is ready for reading operation, in our event loop, we have a appropriate mechanism called read operation. So when we dispatch this event handler to read a file from the network. So here all these are based on single threaded model, so that it is when the file is ready, and based on that we need to dispatch select one event handler for taking a proper action called read operation. All these are single handler, but here it is a severe problem facing. Here it is, until this event handler returns, nothing else can happen in the program that automatically wastes CPU time. When the event handler went to read a file on a network, until it returns, So nothing can happen in the program. So everything will pass and waiting for that handler to return. So this is the drawback in single threaded system. So to overcome this type of situations in our computer systems, we go for a multi-threaded systems. So in general, in single threaded environment, we know that when a thread blocks, when the thread blocks means when thread is working on that or maybe suspended from based on the requirement. I will show you how these states can be changed related to thread. When a thread blocks or it may be in waiting on particular some resources, the entire program stops running. For example, when you are executing a program, so when this program is compiled first and then switches for and loaded into memory, the executable code is loaded into memory, and the memory from memory CPU fetches that program or process for execution. Then during the execution of your program, any instruction related to the input read from keyboard, immediately the control will transfer to keyboard for reading the input from the user. So during this time, processor will sit idle, right, in a single threaded process. But whenever we support for multi-threaded processing or multi-threaded programming, then when the CPU sits idle, another thread will come and activate and execute on CPU in a synchronous manner, right? So, but in multi-threaded environment, when thread blocks in a Java program, only the single thread that is blocked is passed and all other threads continue to run. So this is the advantage of this multi-threading. Over past few years, multi-core systems have become commonplace. So everyone using multi-core systems nowadays. Of course, single core systems are still in widespread use. So that's why it is important to understand that Java's multi-threading features work in both type of systems. We should implement these threading concepts on single core or multi-core systems. That features should be work in both types of systems. Coming to taking this in a single core system, concurrently executing threads. So when we have a single core, there is no parallelism or simultaneous will work. Only concurrently execution of the threads will allow. Okay. So these concurrently executing threads share the CPU. Share the CPU means shares the CPU time cycles, with each thread receiving a slice of CPU time. So based on the allocation, context switching will work here. Context switching, right? One thread of execution and transfer to another execution. So in this way, so concurrently threads will execute in single core on a single core system. Therefore, in a single core system, two or more threads do not actually run at the same time. That's what I'm saying. Concurrently means the two or more threads do not actually run at same time, but it seems to be running same time. But ideal CPU time is utilized by using this concurrently executing threads concept. So we can utilize the ideal CPU time by making context switching among the thread execution parts. And however, in multi-core systems, it is possible for two or more threads to actually execute simultaneously. Simultaneously means parallelly. In many cases, this can further improve program efficiency. It automatically improves the efficiency of a program and it increases the speed of certain operations on given in that program. Why? Because we have multi-core systems and we divided that program into segments, and based on segments we are executing multi-threaded concept on based on the design instructions for the program. So it automatically improves that efficiency and speed of the operations. And it is simple example of this concurrent means thread 1, thread 2 using context switching. So first it executes this one. When interrupt occurs, then the control will shift to T2 execution and it is. So in this process, CPU doesn't sit ideal here. Every time it is busy with working with T1 execution or T2 execution until they complete their executions. So this is the process mainly say in single core systems, right? Generally, we have processes with thread like this. And based on that process execution threads, multiple threads will work on a single core like this. And we know that the process where how this multiple threads and multiple core systems. And here, if you observe that T1 and T2 are running at the same time, both are executing at the same time. But whereas here, T1, T2 are not executing at the same time, right? So this is the thing you need to observe that in the single core and multi-core systems like this. And threads exist in several states here. I told you that thread can have a state of representation, and based on that state, we can represent the actual status of that thread during execution. So here it is general description. A thread can be running. Thread can be running. Running is one of the statements. Once it is ready to execute, then it dispatches for dispatch to CPU for execution. That state is called running state. And you know the very well about these states in operating system about the process and thread. And it can be ready to run as soon as it gets CPU time as it is, that the process is called dispatch to CPU for execution. A running thread can be suspended. That it means temporarily halts its activity. Suspended means, as I told you in the previous example, when a program needs an IO operation or any input, read any input data from the user, then automatically the program execution stops temporarily, called suspended, and it send the control to IO device for reading the input data. Why? Because after reading the input data, only the next instruction will be going to execute. So that is the one of the state of the thread is suspended. And a threaded suspended thread can be resumed. Resumed means and coming back to the execution process. After suspending, it activate for execution. That state is also called as resumed. Right? A thread can be blocked when waiting for a resource. For example, when the program control go for reading an IO operation from the keyboard, keyboard is one of the resource of computer, but it is not available for right now to read data. Why? Because the keyboard is busy with other process execution. The other thread is locked with this keyboard. Then we need to wait until that keyboard is released by other resource, other process. Then so that the state is called blocked state. Right. At any time, a thread can be terminated. That it means which halts its execution. Halts means it stops. It stops. After successful completion of execution, the thread may be terminated. Once terminated, a thread cannot be resumed, but because once it is terminated and it never come back to the execution, then it should start the same life cycle process from new state and ready state to running to maybe termination like that. So this is a simple life cycle description here. So these are the different states. When it is newly created thread, then the state is called new. And to make that thread as runnable, that is mean ready to execute, we should use this method called start method. Then after it is ready, then dispatch that to execute on processor. Then it has a state called running state. So during this execution of thread in processor in a CPU, sometimes it may get method like sleep, or it may get some block on IO, as I told you in the previous slide, block on IO. Why? Because we went for IO device to read input data from user, but IO device is busy with other process. So we need to wait. That is called blocked on IO. And wait for lock. Sometimes in synchronization, dependency is there. Is there any dependency? Then the lock should be set on database, or lock should be set on the common variable that is going to what you are going to modify the common variable. Then the lock automatically set for this synchronization. Sometimes it may be suspend or very other something like wait operation. So then the automatically running state will change to blocked state, that is non-runnable state. Then after recovery, sleep done, then automatically the blocked state is converted into runnable, not running. Okay, you have to go to block state and then you have to run ready state, and later you come back to running state. So here it is ready state, nothing but runnable state. Here we have a schedule of making this ready processor to switch processor for execution. So that's why we need to, this scheduler dispatch will take care, converting these runnable threads to running state. After successful completion, it uses this run method to complete that one and terminate. Terminate is the one of the state of the thread. This is a simple description about a life cycle of a thread having different states during the thread execution. Next one, a thread may have priorities. And we know that thread priority determines how the thread should be treated with respect to the other threads. It's having some importance. The thread priorities are nothing but integer values that specify the relative priority of one of the thread to another, one thread to another. Instead, a thread priority is used decide when to switch from one running thread to next. So which one decides this one? Right? Sometimes interrupt may occur during the thread execution. Automatically, one interrupt is generated for CPU. So CPU, after receiving this interrupt signal, so it immediately stops what that process executing on CPU, and the control is shifted to that interrupt handler. So like this. So there are some two rules for that determine when context switch takes place are simple. So context switch is nothing but we told you that well, if you're executing one process, then interrupt occurs, then it goes to that interrupt handle to handle that execution. So during this context switching, and there are some rules like the first one is a thread can voluntarily relinquish control. That it means so the thread itself make a proper action to have such type of state representation during the thread execution. And another one is thread can be preempted by a high priority thread. That it means when any thread executing on processor, if any high priority thread come for execution, then the processor stops the current executing thread process and terminate it, or maybe making it to that blocked state, and the high priority thread will switch for execution. So that is the concept called preemptive. Forcefully, we are stopping the current execution of the processor and we are switching high priority thread for execution. So this is type of called preemptive multitasking. Okay. And synchronization, I told you that to achieve concurrency among the thread executions of multiple threads, so we need to maintain synchronization. As I told you that multi-threading introduces an asynchronous behavior. In a multi-threaded environment, it completely seen an asynchronous behavior. But there must be way for you to enforce synchronicity when you need it. Why? Because independent process or independent thread execution and doesn't need any synchronization. Whenever some threads are synchronous to each other, that is cooperative to each other. For example, just like a consumer and producer problem in operating system. So producer problem always produces an item to the buffer. As a consumer process, it always consumes the items from the buffer. And in this process, right? So synchronization is very important during this producer and consumer problem, right? So without producing any item into the buffer, consumer process, how it can be consumes an items from the buffer. So this is the dependency. So these are the two processes of two threads executing parallelly, but depending each other. That's why we need a synchronization between these two. So for example, we must prevent one thread from writing data while another thread is in the middle of reading it. So that is a reader's writer's problem here. If any other process like, for example, one thread here, T1, and this is T2, it is a common data, nothing but 10. So T1 is going to perform read operation to access this value 10 to perform some operations on this common data, right? During the mean time of this middle of this reading operation by T1, so T2 is trying to modify this one, it making 11 all like that. So if it converted this, if it modified data 10 to 11, so whatever the operations made by this T1 based on the value 10 are completely inconsistent, right? All are wrong. Why? Because the current value is not 10, but it is 11. So here the concept is, so during the dependency where the read and write problem occurs, so we must prevent one thread from writing data while another thread is in the middle of reading data. And you know this concept example from readers writers problem in synchronization chapter of operating system. For this purpose, Java implements inter-process synchronization. One high-level construct called monitor. This is also from operating system concept. Semaphore, monitor. So monitor is a one-level construct. It controls that thread synchronization. So once the thread enters a monitor, monitor is nothing but a one construct, just like a class like. Once the thread is entered into the monitor, all other must wait until that thread exits the monitor. This is called synchronization. This is called mutual exclusion, mutual understanding. One thread is executing one process on a particular condition. Another thread will wait until it completes, until that first thread completes execution on the condition. So here there is no monitor class defined in Java, but instead for each object has its own implicit monitor that is automatically entered when one of the object's synchronized methods is called. In Java, we have a concept called synchronization, and there we will study about this synchronization process, and we doesn't need any special monitor class in Java for getting synchronization among the multiple threads of a program, right? And we know that once a thread is inside a synchronized method, no other thread can call any other synchronized method. This is the understanding. This is the mutual exclusion, right? On the same object. Right. So this is the way we can get synchronization, and we will study about this one as a particular separate topic in upcoming videos. Next one is messaging. Java provides a clean, low-cost way for two or more threads to talk with each other. So something messaging system is implemented during the thread communication. So here some predefined methods designed for this process. So Java messaging system allows a thread to enter a synchronizer method on an object and then wait there until some other thread explicitly notifies it to come out. So notifying some methods are defined for this to making a proper messaging system among the threads that are running on the computer. So notify all some of the methods. Those methods are used for making inter-thread communication among the threads executing on a computer. And next one, the thread class and runnable interface. So this thread class and runnable interface are mainly used for creating threads. So in Java multi-threading systems is built in upon thread class and its method. When we are trying to create a method, when we need to create a method in Java, we must use any one of these two, nothing but thread class or any interface called runnable. So thread encapsulates a thread of execution. So here, to create a new thread, this is important. To create a new thread, your program will either extend thread class, extend inheritance here. Why? Because thread is a parent class to all the threads you create in your program. So that's why we need to extend that thread class. Or there is one interface called runnable. So we should implement that. We must implement that runnable interface for creating new thread in our program. So the constructors of the thread class are as follows. So thread is a main class and it is one of the default constructor. It allocates a new thread object. Every thread must have a name. Every thread you create in your program must have a name. In this case, name is generated by compiler. Why? Because we didn't give any thread name as a parameter to this thread constructor. So the name is of form like this, capital THREAD hyphen some integer value, right? Integer value. Example thread 0, thread 1, and so on like that. So this is the form of creating a thread in your program using thread constructor, thread class. So this is one constructor and this is thread class, and T1 is a object of thread we create. So new is an operator to allocate memory for this thread. Another form of this thread constructor is thread string class and object of this string name of the thread. It allocates a thread with name specified by the user. You can give name to the thread we create in your program, right? So this is a form. You can give this one, my thread is name given to thread created into the program, right? And these are the thread class methods. These methods defined by this thread class to work with these threads in your program. So first one is get name. We can obtain a thread's name. Get priority, obtain a thread priority. What priority it having in your once it is created. Is alive. Determine if a thread is still running or not. It is a Boolean type function. It returns true or false. And join. Wait for a thread to terminate. Until it terminates, wait until it terminates. Run method, entry point for the thread execution. And sleep is a method that suspends a thread for a time period of some period of time. You can mention this is a sleep, and you can mention in a parenthesis some milliseconds, right? So then automatically it make that thread to sleep. And start is a method should be used to start a thread by calling its run method. So start is a method when you invoke the start method on a particular thread object, it automatically calling its appropriate run method for execution. So here it is one simple example of this main thread execution of this one method usage, and later we will see remaining methods of this thread class, a runnable interface, how to use these to create threads in your program. Suppose I have a KHIT class extending this parent thread class for creating thread. Inside of main method, I have created one thread object T1. Now it is T1 is one thread class followed by thread object using new. T1 thread is created, T2 thread is created. The difference here it is first thread name is given by compiler, but thread 2 name as my concern, that is CSA is my thread 2 name. So when I'm calling this get name method on this thread object and I'm displaying using this system.out.println, it displays the name given by the compiler, and this statement prints the name of the thread as I given. Okay, got it? And we'll go the execution part of this one to see how this thread can be created and how to get the name of the thread. Okay, come to this class KHIT that extends thread. I have created two threads with one default name that is given by compiler and one thread name is given by myself. Here it is CSC is my thread name given. So get name and applying on both thread objects T1 and T2. Go to the compilation process and execution. Go to command prompt here. Add javac khit.java. It is compiled in Java khit. So if you observe here, as I told you, the thread name given by compiler based on this capital THREAD hyphen integer value. The starting thread name given by the compiler always with 0, and later thread created and number starts from 1 or 0, 1, 2 like that. But here second thread is created, that is again name given to that thread is CSC. Got it? So this is the case. And also come to this case, another one. We can create objects of a class like that and start the thread. And as I told you, okay, I will go to make you more comfortable with this. So coming to this next. Yes. However, a very brief and simple description of life class of a thread. It is a very brief and simple description of the life cycle of thread. So first state is new. A new object of a class thread is created. That is the first step. After thread is created, so we should use that method called start method makes thread object alive. And I hope you all understood these words as we discussed earlier. A new object of a class thread is created. After that, you have to make that thread alive by using this start method, right? Thread object executes its run method. Using that run method only we can run that thread. And thread object dies after run is over, that is terminate state. Okay, and we'll go for one simple example of this one as it is here. So first you need to create one class A that extends thread. Okay, so here inside of main method, I have created thread using this thread class T1, but I'm making this thread for this object of class A. So using this internal like this into the thread class, new space constructor of A. So this nothing but this thread is referred to this class A object. So here this is get T1 name and T1 start. And thread 2 the same, but here I given name for this thread CSC, and I'm getting name and T2 will start. So here this T2 start method make alive the thread object to run. So where this and once you have a start method, and we should have must and should we have a run method in our class A, not in main method. Outside of this main, inside of class A, you should have a run method. And inside of run method, you can use your own logic to what type of thread you are going to execute, right? So one simple example here, and check this one. Go to command prompt. Java C a.java compile Java A. So if you observe here, thread 1, right? We already created one thread, so already given thread 0. That's why here it is giving thread 1. Okay. And the second thread is CSA, and both are executed that run method. That's why both are executed in run method, right? T1 start, T2 start. Got it? Okay. Now go to the slide. So I have another program for you. So I have public class B that extends thread, and run method, there I have executed hello, right? So public static void main, inside of that I'm creating one thread. Right now we seen this type of declaration, right? Thread T1 equal to new thread new B. That would mean object of class B, right? But you can directly give the constructor like this. Using thread class, you are creating thread object, but you are assigning directly to constructor of that class B. And you are getting get name and start and run method. Okay, so it also works. And go to Java P. As it is also gives you the same thread 0, thread executed hello here. Okay. Thank you.